New boss ruined the business, so I started my own. I've wanted to post this tale here for a long time. I've started the post many times, walking away from the computer and giving up each time. Note that like many tales here, many trivial to the story details have been changed. What is important to note is that the way my industry runs is essentially via monthly service contracts with clients. There are three major players in the story. Myself, whom I'll call Egnards, old owner, let's call him Steve, and new owner, let's call him Kyle. Act, one do what you love, As an aimless teenager, I started working for a small business owned by Steve. It turns out I really enjoyed what I did. So slowly over time, my life plans shifted to make sure I could continue to work for Steve for the long term. This included transferring to a local college, and because the business was predominantly run on part-time hours, I made sure that any other jobs I had never conflicted with the hours I was expected to work for Steve. Steve was flawed, but overall a good boss who mostly looked out for me. I certainly think over the years he had taken advantage of me in small ways, but looking back, I really have no complaints. The thing is, when I started working for Steve, the business's name recognition was always directed towards Steve. But over the years, it eventually became, go to Egnards, he's the best. This got to the point where I truly believe that if I had not ended up working for Steve, his business would have been nowhere near as successful as it eventually became. As years went on, it was heavily implied that when Steve retired, the business would go to me. It was never specifically stated, but Steve did have a way of skirting around those types of issues and giving me hope. Act 2, enter Kyle ***. About 3 years before COVID, Steve decided to retire and sell his business. He did indeed fulfill his promise by making a half-hearted attempt to sell it to me at an unreasonable price. But it was very clear he already had another buyer in mind, Kyle. Kyle owned another local business just outside of our market area in the same industry. Because of the way the industry worked, there really was little, if any, overlap in potential customers. But Kyle had a very large amount of money and was willing to buy. What is important to note here is that I do truly believe if I didn't play ball and agree to work for Kyle, my role was so integral to the operation at our business that there was no possible way a sale could go through. Over the course of negotiations, Kyle ended up buying the business and putting me in charge of running the day-to-day. This was something I was mostly already doing, but with a few more administrative tasks tacked onto it. The thing is, my name was still the name in town, and Kyle made zero effort to ever be on location. So nobody that did business with us ever really knew who Kyle was. Act 3. Kyle's kind of a dick, and how I learned to stand up for myself. All was well for a while. Kyle would openly talk about me being the head honcho at my location, and mostly left me alone to deal with my clients in the professional and personable nature that I had learned from Steve. Things first came to a head a year before COVID when Kyle sent me to an industry conference for 4 days. I would need to take time off from my other job, which I was fine with. At the conclusion of the conference, I put in an hour's request for the hours I spent at the conference, and I was super nice about it. Actually, I should have clocked all hours at the convention each day, but instead did not account for hours for seminars that would help my boss, but were ones I had wanted to attend. The request was denied, and I was told, industry conferences are enriching activities. We pay for your admission, but they're on your own time. This took 2 weeks to resolve, but ended with me essentially saying, look, I'll still work for you because I love what I do. However, if I don't get paid, I will never go to another one of these conferences again to get new ideas for you. I was immediately paid. I will spare similar smaller stories of that nature. But that slowly started to become the relationship between Kyle and me. Act 4, COVID hits ***. When COVID hit, our locations were shut down. For 3 weeks, we weren't able to do anything. Meanwhile, our clients were still paying for services. Because Kyle had recently moved to a new client payment portal that I hadn't been trained on yet, I wasn't able to help any clients get their money back. At one point, I messaged Kyle about going virtual and being able to still assist clients. I got a very angry text back, full of curses that essentially said, look, you're not the boss, go away. You had your chance to be the owner and turned it down. I'm in charge. We did eventually go virtual about a week later. The big problem, of course, being that I would receive daily texts, emails, and calls from clients about their memberships and bills, and there was nothing I could do to help them. It was at this point that I knew things were really hitting the fan, and I needed to start doing something. So over the course of the next 2 months, I did a couple of things. I spent an inordinate amount of time studying the best business structures. I communicated with all of the other staff at my location about my intentions. I continued to give 110% to my clients in a virtual capacity, and I built a website and social media presence from the ground up. I don't think Kyle was expecting any of this. He probably didn't also realize that, because I often had to do back-end stuff from home, I also had what was essentially a little black book of every client, their email addresses and phone numbers. Act 5, Surgical Strikes ***. When everything was ready, I waited very patiently until the end of a service month. As I mentioned, all of our clients had monthly costs, and I didn't want to put anyone out of any part of their costs. On the last weekday of the month, I instructed the staff who would be helping clients that day to tell them to check their emails at the end of the day. At the end of the day, I sent out an email to all active and some non-active clients, as well as a texting service to text everybody. I launched our social media accounts, our website, and had even enlisted a very small number of trusted clients to spread the word via social media once I gave them the signal. Within 15 minutes of everything, my phone was ringing off the hook. I had 50+ emails in my inbox from different people, and my Facebook accounts were completely blowing up with local chatter. I also heard from many of these people that they were calling Kyle to cancel their service. We hosted a Zoom meeting for all concerned parties, and essentially decided to take the weekend to clear up any confusion with the systems and start fresh and open our doors on Monday. Within an hour of everything, Kyle sent out a text blast to every client that they would be shutting their doors effective immediately. At the start of COVID, we had roughly 50 active clients at the business. On my first day of business, I had signed up 75 active clients, many inactive ones telling me, "Yeah, we stopped doing business with you guys because Kyle was kind of a jerk." What is really important to keep in mind here is that I never wanted to, nor cared to be, a business owner. I was very happy working for somebody else as long as I wasn't treated poorly. Had Kyle treated me even remotely better, the location would have continued to thrive and be a staple in our local community. Kyle chose to be difficult to try and get quick money and cheat people. And Kyle lost out. We've been in business now almost 2 years, have nearly tripled Kyle's active numbers, and continue to be a staple in our community. To sum it up, old boss sold his business to someone who was kind of difficult. The new guy didn't realize I was the face of the business and ended up losing out on everything.